Epilepsy is what I consider, it's like a thunderstorm in the brain. It's where the brain, it's a rapid misfiring of neurons, and the brain just compensates by having a seizure. I like to think of it as my brain resetting itself. When I first noticed my epilepsy, I first noticed that something was wrong probably as far back as I can remember. And this is probably really strange, but I can remember being like 3 years old and sitting watching like Captain Kangaroo. You're too young, you don't remember it, but yeah, he was a really good show. Used to sit there watching it, and all of a sudden my legs and arms would go like straight out in front of me, and it was like kind of like an Alice in Wonderland thing. And never told anybody about it. It would happen like maybe 2 or 3 times a month, and come to find out that that's a temporal lobe seizure. It just doesn't generalize like mine do now. And so I was having them all along, I just never really knew. How was my epilepsy contracted, and how did I come to learn that I had epilepsy? I hit my head when I was snowboarding when we were 28, and came off the mountain having a great day and just hit packed ice. It's kind of like hitting cement. Didn't think anything of it, and I went home that night, had a headache, and that was a Saturday. That Monday I had the first grand mal seizure ever, and after that I had 3 more that day. What does a seizure feel like, and what are the after effects? Imagine running a marathon like twice over. You know, the amount of lactic acid you have built up after playing a tournament, like in all your muscles. That's what it feels like. I usually go really tight, eyes roll back, foam at the mouth, bite my tongue all over the place. It's really gross. But then I also just convulse violently. Yes and no. Can I describe the different types of seizures? I can describe them, but I can't describe them. They usually start for me all the same way. 2 different kinds of ways. Either I'll smell something that's like kind of like an electrical burning, really awful smell. I joke that it's like my brain kind of working overtime, and that's what I smelled the first time. I walked out and I was in the parking lot, and I thought maybe somebody's tire was rubbing out, but that's the worst, that smell. And the other sensation I get is when you're at the top of a roller coaster, that stomach, it's called an epigastric rising. That is pretty much ever present. It's always with me. So whenever I have that, and it occurs for every now and then, like sometimes 2 and 3 times a week, I usually end up having a pretty bad grand mal. What's like living with epilepsy and not being able to drive? That's probably the worst part, because I was not to quote Rain Man, but I was an excellent driver. Like, I started driving when I was like 14, and there's something really liberating about just getting in the car and having that independence, and rolling down the window and just being able to turn the music on and go. And to have that kind of taken away when you're an adult already, that's hard. The hardest part for me, I think, is always asking for help, or wanting to go shopping and have your really annoying teenage son who doesn't necessarily want to go to the same stores as you, standing there behind you, kind of ever present. So yeah, that's not fun. But as far as working and getting up and day to day, I don't really see a difference. I mean, my drive's still there. Not my ability to drive, but but yeah, I mean, other than that, that's probably the one thing I miss the most, is not being able to drive, and I'll never be able to drive again, so I've kind of made peace with it. What are the biggest challenges? Honestly, having to deal with people who just think you're a little bit maybe not smart. I've run into that a couple of times. Like if you know, tell them you have seizures, or if I've told them I've had seizures, they kind of think that you're sort of mentally lacking in some way, and so that's always somewhat of a struggle. The driving's always an issue for me. You know, it always kind of comes back to not having the independence, which I think is maybe part of the bigger equation. You know, the lack of independence and kind of a quality of life issue. Treatment has been extensive. When I first started having seizures, they put you in right away. They ran all sorts of EEGs. All of those came back, you know, abnormal, which is good because they let you know, hey, she's really having seizures. But they weren't really able to tell why or where they were coming from. And so then they put me in the hospital for, you know, sometimes 2 weeks at a time to kind of get the meds right. They put you under video so they can observe a seizure. They actually try to provoke a seizure, which is not entirely fun, but necessary. So there's that. Scans, the anticonvulsants all kind of wreak havoc on your liver and kidneys because that's the way they're processed. And so I usually have those scans probably every 3 months. And so it's a bigger process than just your noggin. It's kind of a whole body process, but doing a lot better than it was. My family, they're pretty amazing. There's been times where, say, you know, my husband was on deployment and we were living out in, you know, by the beaches, and this is when we're talking like pre-junior high, like 4th and 5th grade, and I had one of the worst grand mals that I've ever had, and Jacob called 911. The twins stayed, you know, with me, rolled me over, and I mean, I was so grateful because I feel like anybody else, their family would have just freaked out. But here I have, you know, kids that don't necessarily know how to speak Spanish. They're running to go get the neighbors speaking Spanish, and you know, I had multitudes of help at that point, and so it's always nice, and I don't ever feel alone because I have them. You know, I think they're a little protective, you know, of me. They're, one of my least favorite things about them is I can't ever like drop the bass or drop the beat, because in the car they think I'm having a seizure or something. I mean, you know, or if I start daydreaming, they kind of look at me, you know, that's always kind of annoying. You know, I think everybody should be able to just kind of daydream without anybody, you know, freaking out or calling an ambulance. So yeah, my relationship with my dogs, and she's beating on the door right now. Lucy especially, she's my yellow lab. She, just last night, I had that epigastric rising, the stomach rising, and I was sitting here. I didn't have to say anything to anybody. She was right behind, you know, on the couch behind you, and she got down and came and sat right in front of me. And it freaks my family out, but I'm kind of used to it. I mean, she is very bonded, very in tune, and I don't know if it's something in my behavior or if it's something she smells, but she definitely recognizes it. The other thing that all of the dogs do, I have 3 now, we rescued one, but both of them, I mean, I've had seizures where I've been here alone, and I've actually been awoken by them kind of licking my face, and, you know, like they've helped me get up. I mean, I've, you know, not been able to fully stand, and, you know, they, I mean, it's truly remarkable. And then in the days recovering, I mean, they kind of stayed glued to me. It's one of the best things I think I have going. I think that there's so many other worse things you can have. I mean, truly, that's kind of the way I've looked at it all along. I mean, I feel like it's a great struggle or anything like that. I just feel like it's something that, if anything, you know, people need to be aware of it, because that way they're not made to feel lesser. And if you're not made to feel lesser, then it's not a struggle if you're made to feel the same as everyone else.